Imagine a country trying to leap decades ahead in just a few years. That was the vision behind China's Great Leap Forward, launched in 1958. Mao Zedong believed collective effort could transform China from a nation of farmers into an industrial powerhouse, rivaling the West. The government mobilized everyone, farmers, workers, even children, using propaganda to inspire a sense of national mission. Private land was abolished, and people were organized into massive communes where everything was shared. The goal, a perfectly equal society, with the needs of the nation above all else. This was a radical experiment, aiming to erase old traditions and create a new collective identity. But such a leap meant venturing into the unknown, with untested methods and little planning. Leaders set unrealistic goals, often ignoring the real consequences of their policies. The Great Leap Forward would soon become a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition. At the heart of the Great Leap Forward was Mao's ambitious push to transform China from an agrarian society into a modern industrial powerhouse, with steel production as its symbol of progress and national pride. Mao believed that by rapidly increasing steel output, China could catch up with Western nations and prove its strength to the world. Instead of focusing on building large, centralized factories, the government urged millions of ordinary people to construct backyard furnaces in their villages and towns. Families and neighbors worked together, melting down household metal, everything from old tools to cooking pots, in makeshift furnaces, all in the hope of contributing to the nation's steel targets. Across the country, millions joined in, sacrificing their most valuable possessions, pots, pans, farming tools, believing they were forging a new future for China. The sense of collective effort was powerful, and for many, it felt like a patriotic duty. At the same time, private farming was abolished. Communes replaced family farms, with thousands of people living and working together, sharing everything from food to labor. The government promised that this new way of life would bring prosperity and equality to all. Leaders believed that collective farming and mass mobilization for industry would dramatically boost output. But they set targets for both grain and steel that were impossibly high, far beyond what could realistically be achieved. Local officials, under intense pressure to meet these quotas and fearful of punishment for failure, exaggerated production numbers. Reports of bumper harvests and record steel output created a false sense of success that spread up the chain of command. The central government, trusting these inflated reports, requisitioned huge amounts of grain from rural areas, convinced there was plenty to spare. In reality, much of the reported surplus simply didn't exist. The truth on the ground was starkly different. Resources were stretched dangerously thin, and the illusion of progress masked growing shortages and hardship. Villagers struggled to feed their families as supplies dwindled. The combination of flawed policies, unrealistic expectations, and widespread misinformation set the stage for disaster. Many backyard furnaces produced little more than useless lumps of metal, and the communal system began to break down. The dream of rapid industrialization was about to unravel, leaving behind empty fields, broken furnaces, and a population facing an uncertain future. The consequences would be devastating for millions, as the promise of a new era gave way to one of the darkest chapters in China's history. The Great Leap Forward's radical policies, intended to rapidly transform China's economy, instead led to one of the most devastating famines in human history. The countryside, once full of life, became a landscape of suffering and loss. Backyard furnaces, a symbol of misguided ambition, failed spectacularly. Most of the steel produced was brittle and useless. In the rush to meet impossible quotas, millions of villagers abandoned their fields to tend these fires, leaving crops untended and harvests lost. Essential farming tools were melted down or left to rust, and with so many hands diverted from agriculture, there simply weren't enough people left to plant or harvest the crops that sustained rural life. Local officials, desperate to please higher authorities, exaggerated harvest numbers. The government, believing these false reports, continued to requisition grain, leaving rural communities with nothing to eat. Communal kitchens, once promoted as a symbol of collective progress, soon ran out of food. Families who had once grown their own crops now waited in vain for meals that never came, their independence stripped away. From 1959 to 1961, famine swept across the nation. In village after village, hunger and disease claimed lives. Tens of millions suffered, and countless families were torn apart by loss. Natural disasters, floods, droughts, and pests, struck at the worst possible time, compounding the crisis. But at its core, it was policy failures and human decisions that lay at the heart of this catastrophe. The dream of an industrial utopia had turned into a nightmare of hunger, grief, and shattered communities. The countryside was left mourning, its people forever changed. Eventually, the government was forced to abandon the failed backyard furnaces and scale back the commune system. The promise of collective prosperity had proven hollow. Some private farming was quietly allowed to return, as desperate villagers sought to survive. Mao's authority within the Communist Party was shaken, and the leadership began to reconsider its approach. The Great Leap Forward ended not with triumph, but as a tragic lesson in the dangers of ignoring reality and silencing dissent. Its legacy would haunt the nation for decades. The scars of the famine would shape China for generations, a somber reminder of the cost of unchecked ambition and the resilience of those who endured. After the chaos of the Great Leap Forward and Cultural Revolution, China needed a new path. The country was in dire need of stability and a fresh direction to rebuild its economy and society. In 1978, Deng Xiaoping launched Reform and Opening Up, mixing socialism with market ideas. This bold move aimed to modernize China's economy by introducing elements of capitalism while maintaining the core principles of socialism. Deng's philosophy: it doesn't matter if a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice. This pragmatic approach emphasized results over ideology, focusing on what worked best for the country's development. The first reforms dismantled communes, letting families lease land and sell surplus crops for profit. This shift empowered farmers, giving them more control over their livelihoods and incentivizing productivity. Agricultural output soared, and food shortages faded. The newfound prosperity in rural areas laid the foundation for further economic reforms. Next, the government created special economic zones, inviting foreign investment and technology. These zones became testing grounds for market-oriented policies and attracted significant foreign capital. Private businesses re-emerged, and new entrepreneurs flourished. The entrepreneurial spirit was rekindled, leading to a surge in small businesses and innovation. Cities like Shenzhen transformed from fishing villages into booming metropolises. The rapid urbanization and industrial growth in these areas symbolized China's economic transformation. China opened to global trade, sending students abroad and importing new ideas. This exchange of knowledge and culture further fueled the country's modernization efforts. The country shifted from isolation to opportunity, unleashing creativity and economic growth. The newfound openness allowed for a dynamic and innovative environment. Hundreds of millions were lifted out of poverty. The economic reforms significantly improved living standards and reduced poverty across the nation. Reform and opening up set the stage for China's economic miracle. The policies implemented during this era laid the groundwork for the country's rapid economic growth and development. The world would never see China the same way again. The transformation was profound, reshaping global perceptions and establishing China as a major economic power. With new economic policies, China launched an unprecedented infrastructure boom. High-speed rail lines now crisscross the country, shrinking travel times and connecting cities. Mega-projects like the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge and the Three Gorges Dam showcase China's engineering might. Entire cities rose from the ground, with futuristic skylines and sprawling subway systems. Urbanization moved hundreds of millions from rural areas into cities, fueling growth. The South-North Water Diversion Project tackled water shortages, moving water across vast distances. These projects united the country and powered its economic rise. But they also brought environmental and social challenges, from displaced communities to altered ecosystems. China's transformation was as breathtaking as it was complex. As China's power grew, its ambitions reached for the stars. The space program became a symbol of national pride and technological progress. In 2019, China landed a probe on the far side of the moon, a world first. Lunar missions brought back moon rocks, and in 2021, China landed a rover on Mars. The Tiangong space station, completed in 2022, gave China its own permanent outpost in orbit. Chinese astronauts now conduct long-term experiments in space, independent of the International Space Station. These achievements signal China's arrival as a major space power. The next goals: sending astronauts to the moon and building a lunar base. China's journey into space is just beginning. China is now leading a new leap, this time into renewable energy. Once reliant on coal, China is now the world's top producer of solar panels, wind turbines, and batteries. Massive solar and wind farms stretch across deserts and coastlines, powering cities and industries. In 2025, renewables make up more than half of China's energy capacity. China's green tech boom has made clean energy cheaper worldwide and given it a powerful economic edge. Electric vehicle companies like BYD and NIO are challenging global car makers. This green revolution is reshaping China's economy and its role in the fight against climate change. The world is watching China's great green leap forward. Despite its rise, China faces serious challenges. An aging population and a shrinking workforce threaten future growth. Youth unemployment is high, and the property market is in crisis, shaking public confidence. Local governments are burdened with debt, limiting their ability to provide services. Internationally, rivalry with the US has sparked a tech war, pushing China to develop its own advanced industries. China's political system, marked by strict controls and human rights concerns, limits its global appeal. Many countries are wary of China's growing influence and different approach to global norms. Balancing domestic needs with its global image will define China's next chapter. China's journey from the Great Leap Forward to global superpower is a story of dramatic change. The famine showed the dangers of ideology unchecked by reality. Reform and opening up proved the power of pragmatism and global engagement. China's ability to plan and execute massive projects has inspired both admiration and concern. Its push into green technology shows strategic foresight for the future. Yet China's story is full of contradictions: recovery, growth, and new challenges. The world can learn from China's mix of ambition, adaptability, and the need for people-focused policies. How China navigates its future will shape the world for generations to come.